I would while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. I'd be friends with the sparrows and the boy that shoots the arrows if I only had a heart. What am I talking about, guys? Yeah, am I off my rocker? No, I'm not. I'm talking about political symbolism in almost everything at the turn of the 18th and 19th and 20th century. From books like The Wizard of Oz, Animal Farm, 1984, even A Tale of Two Cities. What am I talking about, people? I'll say it again. Political symbolism. Guys, I had this link on my desktop. I just opened it 3 seconds ago and I said, I need to make a video on the secrets of political symbolism. And The Wizard of Oz is one of the best ones. 1984 with Big Brother, all that. That's very kind of direct, where this one is very symbolic. This one reminds me more of Lord of the Flies, where it's severely symbolic, but it brings out a message. What were they thinking at the turn of the 19th century? Well, this gentleman that wrote this, I can't even pronounce his name, Noir, or I can't even pronounce the guy's name, sorry, that wrote this book in 1900, and they were discussing a more fair currency, a more backed currency, if you want to call it that. And it traces back to that, and it also traces back to the agriculture of the time. And back at the turn of the 19th century, a lot of these people were farmers, and farmers weren't getting the proper reforms and weren't getting the proper treatment, even though they were the breadbasket of the country and supporting the country. Right? So remember, the Civil War ended. It's just after the Civil War, and we're heading towards the 20th century. It's an interesting 20th century if you lived through part of it like I did. It is symbolism beyond the wazoo. So let's look at this. I had this on my desktop, so let's scroll through it and see what's relevant for today's time. The political symbolism you never knew was hidden in The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is a beloved children's story that includes both book published in 1900. Yeah, I was right on that. And the movie, which came out in 1939. Wait a minute, I thought the movie was 1935. See, I was wrong with that one. For years, fans have been drawn to the behind-the-scenes gossip about the movie and the strange conspiracy surrounding The Wizard of Oz. But is there a secret political message hidden in L. Frank Baum's book? Yeah, I can't pronounce that guy's name. Historians have found a number of symbols in The Wizard of Oz. They all point to one thing: American politics in the 1890s. When Baum was writing this book, The Wizard of Oz symbolism goes incredibly deep. From the main characters to the cyclone, those famous slippers, and even Toto. And central message in the book is all about the rise of populism and the debate over gold versus silver. In the late 19th century, populists were primarily rural farmers and workers who rallied, and also a lot of workers working on the trains too, tracks and stuff, and connecting America. That was also a big one. They rallied to demand an increase in releasing an ultimate coinage of silver to circulate more currency, as well as income tax reforms. Good luck with that. Direct election of U.S. senators and other ways of giving farmers and industrial workers a better playing field in the economy while strengthen political democracy. That's very important, guys. Very, very important. And it kind of sounds, it rings a bell of today's time. Kind of ring the bell because the sound is dying. Whoa. Well, because it's dying. We got to keep ringing that bell every once and so often to keep the dream alive or keep it pushing forward, if you know what I mean. It might sound far-fetched, but there is a wealth of evidence to support the theory that Baum was writing a political allegory through the lens of a fanciful children's tale. Baum was a political reporter in the 1890s, and he lived in South Dakota for several years, giving him a close-up view of the rise of populist movement and the views of American farmers and workers. Is the Wizard of Oz allegory for politics in the 1890s? Interestingly enough, there are arguably some parallels to today's political scene, making even the would-be politician allegory in a timelessly relevant tale. Read on and decide for yourself. So, I'm going to let you guys into a little secret about this play. I was in the play in high school, in grade 9. And yes, I was in The Wizard of Oz, and I memorized the words for every character. That was the rules back then. If you wanted to be in the play, you had to memorize the lines of every character so you know when yours was, or other things like that. And they just wanted to keep our minds sharp at a young age, right? Although The Wizard of Oz might be famous today for the 1939 movie starring Judy Garland, rest her soul, the book was originally written in 1890s by the author L. Frank Baum. And it turns out that The Wizard of Oz is full of hidden political symbolism, which sometimes seems barely hidden at all. But no one noticed the clear parallels of American politics in the 1890s until a historian named Henry Littlefield published an analysis of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz in 1964. For decades, people had dismissed Baum's book as a fairy tale for children, but in fact, it carries a strong message about the biggest problems facing America at the end of the 19th century. It's copyright 1899 by L. Frank Baum and W. W. Danielson, all rights reserved, 333. Dorothy represents the average American. Remember being from Kansas, and she keeps messaging, Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. In The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy is an orphan living in Kansas, a dull, gray place. Has lots of vibrancy. According to historian Quentin Taylor, Dorothy represents each of us at our best. Kind, but self-respecting, guileless, but level-headed, wholesome, but plucky. Man, we don't use these words about each other anymore. She is, in short, the girl next door. And she represents the average American looking for a solution to her simple problems. In the 1880s and 1890s, the state of Kansas was going through a terrible time. Droughts, harsh winters, and invading grasshoppers. They scorched the prairie, devastating farmers, blamed all sorts of forces, Wall Street, the railroads, politicians, or nature itself. In fact, the tribulations of American farmers gave rise to the populist movement, which promised solutions. And The Wizard of Oz contained coded symbolism that supported populism. So that's the start. The star of the story is Dorothy, the average day-to-day Joe Donuts. The Scarecrow represents Midwest farmers. The poor Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz is convincing that he doesn't have a brain. What does that mean? Wake up, sheeple. Wake up, people, today. That's what it means. He doesn't have a brain. But his terrible sense of inferiority and self-doubt, according to Littlefield, is actually because of the years of ridicule. In one of 1869 article, example of Kansas farmers were accused of ignorance and irrationality and general muddle-headedness. Muddled-headedness. Try saying that 3 times fast. The populist party new to the scene at the end of the 1800s was primarily made up of farmers who were mocked by everyone else. They were called deluded simpletons and radicals, or today we're called serfs. But the Scarecrow proves that he isn't stupid. He knows common sense and resilience on the journey. The story implies that farmers are not as stupid as political opponents suggest. His song was, I'd unravel every riddle from any individual, from trouble or in pain. Beady, 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 I could be another Lincoln. But the thoughts, I'd be thinking I could be another Lincoln if I only had a brain. That was the Scarecrow song. The Tin Man is the mistreated factory worker, or representing the workers in the late 1800s, into the turn of the century, and into the market crash. In the 1890s, the U.S. was in the middle of an industrial revolution, and the shift created lots of work workers who weren't being treated well by their bosses. And that's happening again today. Tin Woodman's, he represents dehumanized worker who was literally turned into the wicked witch of what? He represents the dehumanized worker who was literally turned into tin by the wicked witch of the east. That's right. If you read the backstory, she turned him into a tin man. The tin man was once strong, healthy worker, but after the witch cursed him, he accidentally chopped off his own limbs. Each was replaced by tin, transforming the worker into the Tin Man. The Tin Man represents factory workers who have lost their heart in the new economy, and the symbolism goes even deeper. The Tin Man is rusted when Dorothy first meets him, paralleling the high unemployment during the Depression of the 1890s. But he is ready to work, as Dorothy demonstrates by giving him just a few drops of oil. So guys, the drops of oil is symbolism that represents that it just doesn't take much to unravel and get people back into motion. The Cowardly Lion is populist hero William Jennings Bryan, says William Jennings Bryan. Populist hero. So he's how did this song go? If I only had courage. Can't remember it right now, but there are a lot of clues that the Cowardly Lion represents the greatest populist hero of the 1890s. William Jennings Bryan Lion, get it. The symbolism goes deep on this one. Like the Cowardly Lion, Bryan was known for his roaring and was even portrayed as a lion by the press. The Democratic presidential, the lion's representing the sound, the voice of the people, the watchdog, the protectorate of the people by reporting. As a Democratic presidential candidate in 1896 to 1900, Bryan promoted the free silver movement, arguing that America's gold standard was harming farmers. In famous Cross of Gold speech in 1896, Bryan rallied. Having behind us the commercial interests and the laboring interest and all the toiling masses, we shall answer this demand for gold standard by saying to them, you should not press down upon the brow of labor this crown of thorns. You shall not crucify mankind upon this cross of gold. So what it was is they wanted to actually switch to silver because gold standard was a too expensive standard to have a dollar based off, because a limited supply of gold around too meant limited supply of money in circulation, right? Because back in the day, they just wouldn't print money for the sake of printing money, right? But Bryan was unable to either win the election, in part because he couldn't win over the Eastern workers, just like the Cowardly Lions could make no impression on the Tin Man. So this is a big one. The Cowardly Lions, in-depth persona in this really goes deep when you start thinking about it. It could be the assembly of the press, trying to say what they want to say, and unveiling when they're scared to. Yeah. The secrets in the silver slippers. The beautiful ruby slippers in the 1839 movie version of The Wizard of Oz doesn't exist. In L. Frank Baum's book, that's because the original slippers were silver. I think I got a picture of them here. There they are. They were changed to ruby slippers in the movie to take advantage of the marvelous Technicolor, because they were doing things in color and it was a big deal, right? Still, a new technology at the time, but once you realize the slippers were originally silver, the political message becomes louder and clearer. Farmers wanted to return to the free silver to protect from the economic harm caused by the gold standard. And in The Wizard of Oz, the yellow brick road representing gold is the dangerous path. It leads to Emerald City, representing the link between gold standard and political interests, and is full of cracks and holes. As Baum writes, the bricks were very uneven and sometimes broken or missing altogether. The Scarecrow, representing farmers, fell into the bricks again and again, but Dorothy silver slippers carrying her safely around the damage hinting that the returning to a silver and gold standard was the solution to the economic problems of the 1890s. And just to make it extra clear, The Wizard of Oz is about monetary policy. Baum named the imaginary land of Oz the same as the abbreviation for once the measure used for the gold standard, OZ, ounces, gold. Ha ha ha! You learn something new every day, eh? The Wicked Witches represent powerful interest in American politics. The two Wicked Witches in The Wizard of Oz represent powerful forces in the American politics that threaten the country. The Wicked Witch of the East, who Dorothy smashes with her house, is the thinly veiled difference to Wall Street and the moneyed interest in the 1890s. Today, it could mean the crash of our housing crash or our housing bubble. She represents financial industrial interest, and she is the one who stole the Tin Man's heart and enslaved the Munchkins. Yep, the Munchkins were enslaved people. The Wicked Witch of the West similarly symbolizes the rich in America's West, bankers, railroad owners, and wealthy oilmen like J.D. Rockefeller. Just as the Wicked Witch of the East enslaves the Munchkins, the witch in the West enslaves the Winkies, who represent the Asian laborers in America's West. That's railroading. Remember the whole I talked about earlier. She finally is dissolved in water. Another allusion to the monetary debate over liquidity. What are we having right now? The repo markets. Woo! Whoa, this is exciting, guys. It turns out that a lot of The Wizard of Oz is about fiscal policy. The Wizard of Oz is an exciting story of a young girl's journey to find her way back home and her realization that she had the power within her all along. But according to scholars who see the political symbolism in the story is all about monetary policy. That's right. In the 1890s, the big debate in American politics was about the gold standard. Under the gold standard, America's paper currency was backed by gold, and anyone could take $1 to the bank and receive $1's worth of gold. But the gold standard was causing a huge monetary problems for American farmers. Prices were falling, farmers were defaulting on their loans, bankers were seizing farms and selling them off, meaning farmers lost their jobs and their homes. And many farmers blamed the gold standard before 1873. $1 could be exchanged for gold or silver, and farmers wanted to return to the free silver because of the abundance of silver would cause inflation, making it easier for farmers to pay back their loans. Right? So that's very important. All of this might seem removed from The Wizard of Oz until you consider two things: the importance of the yellow brick road representing gold, and Dorothy's slippers, which were ruby in the book. They were silver. Yes. So let's look at the free silver. Let's look it up here. It's the free silver 1873 free silver. So here it is here. There's Dorothy there. A little bit about the author right there. In 1910, to explore business opportunities related to his books, The Wizard of Oz author L. Frank Baum moved to Los Angeles. He quickly built a 4-bedroom mansion called the Oscott at the corner of Yucca and Cherokee Streets in Hollywood. He lived there until May 6, 1919. The Wizard of Oz's Hollywood's premiere was led on August 15, 1939, in Graham's Chinese Theater, only 3 blocks away from the Oscott. The house was demolished in the late 1950s to replace with a drab apartment building that still stands there today. Yep. The symbolic silver movement. Let's look up the free trade silver. Oops, I got a cord running over my keyboard here, so I can't pick all the buttons. Free silver movement. Free silver movement was an economic policy issued in the late 19th century in America. Its advocates were in favor of an expansion to monetary policy, featuring the ultimate coinage of silver into money on demand, as opposed strict adherence to the more carefully fixed money supply implicit to the gold standard. Supporters of unimportant place for silver in the bimetallic money system, making use of gold and silver, called silverites. Silverites? What is silverites? Silverites were members of political movement in the United States in the late 19th century that advocated that gold should continue to be monetary standard along with gold as authorized under the Coinage Act of 1792. The Silverite Coalition famous slogan was 16 to 1 was the ratio, and that was good at the time. So people don't have to default on their loans because the price of crops will be going down to keep the obviously the price of gold will just keep skyrocketing, right? Sought coinage of silver dollars at a fixed weight ratio of 16 to 1 against the dollar coins made of gold because the actual price of the ratio of the two metals were substantially higher in favor to gold at the time. It still is. It's like 900 or something. It's crazy. 100, what is it? I don't even know. It's $20, $18. Gold's at 16, 17 an ounce today. Silver's at 17 an ounce today. Gold is at 14.50 today. So that's quite a bit. It's like 90 something. Most economists warned that the less valuable silver coinage would drive the more valuable gold out of circulation. So that's it right there. There it is right there. And there's a little bit of the slogans they had back in the day. Vote for silver. Vote for silver. Vote for silver. Vote for silver. Mexico, vote for silver. China, vote for silver. India. So there it is. There's their headquarters campaign orders, the Democratic campaign headquarters here. And that's what they wanted. They wanted to vote in silver at the time. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I look forward to reading your comments on this one. So guys, if you want to read other symbolic stuff, try reading Lord of the Flies. Try reading Animal Farm. 1984, A Tale of Two Cities. There's a couple of them out there that you guys should get your hands on and read. What's the one on the island there with God? I think I mentioned it. The one on the Lord of the Flies. Read that. Read Lord of the Flies first if you want to read a good one with a lot of in-depth symbolism, a lot of hidden messages. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Mike Martins here from Merritt, BC.